Scum like you has no business in a house of justice. Detective Marcus Thorne's words, low, venomous, and final, would one day annihilate his career. But that morning, outside the towering granite steps of the Metropolitan Justice Center, he felt only the familiar thrill of unchecked power. Dr. Alana Vance approached the courthouse with quiet determination. Her tailored suit and worn leather briefcase spoke of long years in the trenches of the legal system, 25 of them. Inside the case lay sensitive judicial orders and sealed documents bearing her official signature. She had fought too long, too hard, to ever appear uncertain. Thorne saw none of that. Emerging from the shadow of a concrete pillar, he saw only what prejudice allowed him to see. Well, he drawled, blocking her path. Another hoodlum, thinking she can waltz into a federal building. You lost, sweetheart. Alana met his gaze evenly. Detective, I'm here on official business. If you'd like to examine my credentials, official business? Thorne barked a cruel laugh. Lady, the only business you've got here is the kind that ends in cuffs. Two uniformed officers, Miller and Jennings, approached, smirking. She thinks she belongs here, Thorne, Miller mocked, raising his phone to record. Alana felt the familiar sting of systemic contempt, but refused to flinch. Please step aside, detective. The only place you belong is behind bars, Thorne snarled, stepping closer. Then, with deliberate brutality, his open hand cracked across her face. The sound echoed across the marble facade. Her briefcase flew open, scattering confidential court documents across the steps. Thorne's hand shot to her throat. Scum like you, he growled, pressing her against the wall beneath a bronze plaque that read, The Honorable Dr. Vance presiding. The irony was cinematic and damning. He twisted her arms behind her back, locking the cuffs so tight they cut into her skin. Resisting arrest, he declared, dragging her through the courthouse doors as bystanders looked away. Inside, he presented her to the desk sergeant like a trophy. One for processing, breach of property, forged documents, assault on an officer. The lies flowed effortlessly. His arrogance had long insulated him from consequence. In the holding area, Alana sat on a cold metal bench, blood tracing the edge of her jaw. But her mind was clear, methodical. Terry versus Ohio. Miranda versus Arizona. Brady versus Maryland. Every case, every principle of due process echoed in her thoughts. She had enforced these laws for decades. Now she would wield them from the other side. Her phone was gone, her dignity assaulted, but her authority was intact. And Thorne had no idea who he had just attacked. Meanwhile, in an adjacent office, Thorne rehearsed his version of events for Prosecutor Jennifer Shaw. Subject approached the courthouse at 8:45 a.m., acting suspiciously. Claimed to be a judge. Refused to show ID. Documents appeared forged. Shaw nodded, too eager to question him. Alana was granted a single monitored phone call. She used it with precision. Chief Judge Harrison, she said evenly, preserve all surveillance and body cam footage from this morning. Immediately, her second call was to the FBI's Civil Rights Division. By the time her temporary hearing convened, word had begun to circulate through the courthouse. Still, protocol demanded procedure. Case number 2024 CR 8847. State versus Jane Doe. The clerk read aloud. The name, an insult, hung in the air. Thorne took the stand, polished and self-assured. Defendant was erratic, confrontational, he testified. She swung first. I applied minimal force necessary to ensure safety. Miller and Jennings followed, their stories identical, too identical. Alana watched silently, her face unreadable. She noted every contradiction, every procedural violation. Her stillness was not submission, it was calculation. Prosecutor Shaw ended with quiet triumph. The defendant's claims of misconduct are a transparent attempt to evade accountability, she said. There is no evidence to support her accusations. Alana's lips curved almost imperceptibly. There would be evidence. Every camera in that building, every audio log, every body cam held the truth of what had transpired. And soon, very soon, those same walls that had echoed Thorne's laughter would carry his screams. Judge Reyes adjusted his glasses. Does the defense wish to speak? He asked. Alana rose slowly, her posture regal despite the bruises. Yes, Your Honor, she said. Her voice was calm, deliberate, carrying the unmistakable tone of command. Before I do, I request that my full legal identity be entered into record. She turned her eyes toward Thorne, watching the color drain from his face. "My name," she said clearly, "is Dr. Alana Vance, Federal District Judge, Southern Circuit." The courtroom went deathly still. Thorne froze, realization dawning too late. The woman he had cuffed, beaten, and humiliated was not a trespasser. She was the highest judicial authority in that building. Somewhere in the back, a deputy whispered, "Oh my God." But Alana wasn't finished. "And I have already contacted both the chief judge and the FBI," she continued. "By now, every second of this morning's events is being reviewed as federal evidence." Thorne's smirk collapsed into disbelief. Miller lowered his phone. Jennings stared at the floor. The silence stretched until Judge Reyes finally spoke, his voice subdued. "This court will recess for 10 minutes. Alana remained standing. Her cuffs had not yet been removed, but her power had already shifted the room. Justice was no longer abstract. It was alive, breathing, and staring Marcus Thorne in the eyes. Thorne caught Alana's eye and gave her a triumphant, contemptuous wink. It was the last moment of victory he would ever know. Judge Reyes looked toward the defendant's table. "The defendant may now present her statement." Alana Vance rose slowly, the handcuffs clinking softly, but her posture was majestic. The bruise on her cheek was a visible mark of his crime. "Thank you, Your Honor," she said, her voice quiet, yet carrying the unmistakable weight of command. "I believe there are several factual inaccuracies in the testimony. Detective Thorne stated I was trespassing. As Your Honor knows, under the ruling in Hague v. CIO, public sidewalks are a traditional public forum." Judge Reyes, a thin, pale man, sat straighter. Her diction, her legal citation, nothing matched the criminal profile. "Furthermore, I would like to formally request that this court issue an immediate preservation order for all electronic surveillance data from this morning, including courthouse security footage and, critically, the county's automatic backup system for officer body camera files, a system Detective Thorne appears to have forgotten exists." Thorne's confident posture began to shatter. "And finally, Your Honor," Alana continued, her voice gaining steel, "Detective Thorne testified that I claimed to be someone important, but refused to show identification." She reached into her jacket and held up a leather wallet. "He refused to examine this, Your Honor. My official judicial parking pass, my biometric access card, and this." She opened the wallet. The gold federal judicial seal was clearly visible. "I believe there's been a significant misunderstanding about who exactly Detective Thorne assaulted this morning." She looked directly at Thorne, whose face was completely ashen. "I am the Honorable Dr. Alana Vance, the presiding federal district judge of this courthouse." The gavel fell with a sound like thunder, not from Judge Reyes, but from the bailiff's desk. "Court will recess for 15 minutes. Judge Reyes stammered, scrambling from the bench. As the chaos erupted, Alana turned to a trusted bailiff. "Go to my chambers. Bring my Senate-engraved robes and my ceremonial gavel. It's engraved with the words, 'The truth endures.'" 15 minutes later, the bailiff's voice boomed through the packed courtroom. "All rise. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Alana Vance presiding." Alana, now in her black robes, the bruise on her face a powerful contrast to her authoritative bearing, walked through her chamber doors. She took her seat. "Officer Thorne," she said, her voice steady and final, "you may remain standing. You testified under oath that I was a criminal who needed to learn that actions have consequences. You were absolutely right." She turned the tablet to face the courtroom, and the security footage began to play, exposing his lies, his brutal assault, and his venomous racism for all to see. "For the past 6 months, Detective Thorne, you have been under federal surveillance in a civil rights investigation. You just provided the perfect, undeniable evidence of felony civil rights violations." She lifted her ceremonial gavel. "Based on the evidence you yourself provided, I find you guilty of felony assault, deprivation of civil rights under color of law, and perjury in the first degree." The gavel came down with the sound of absolute finality. "Detective Marcus Thorne, you are hereby sentenced to 35 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Justice is blind, but she sees all. And today she saw you.